Hello, this is Sylvana Candela, licensed acupuncturist, author, and publisher. And my message to you in all my videos is healing yourself to heal the world. There it is right behind me. Okay, and I'm here today in my prayer closet, and I'm going to talk to you today about healing words and harmful words and how they affect us, and maybe looking at them in a certain way and how we are affected, yes, and also what we can do from the effects that have been done to us, and maybe being more mindful of how we speak to others. When I was a child growing up, there was an expression. It was called, "Sticks and stones can hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me." Wrong. Very wrong. Words can hurt a lot. I don't know who came up with that idea. My mother used to say it to me a lot, and she, like she really believed that. No. Anyway, I'd like to share with you some of those negatives and positives, so you can kind of see, what the difference is and how they can really affect us quite deeply, and how they do affect us, and in some cases they can have one way or the other, if it's positive or negative, have a lasting, even lifelong effect. Um, Let me start with some of the healing words, or the types of healing words. Words of praise, encouragement, uplifting, complimentary, and even words of love that are expressed to you. You think about, and I'm going to share a story with you in this video of something that affected me only recently in a very complimentary way that has really been very positive and uplifting and helpful in my life recently. How those words affect us compared with kinds of harmful words, which could be like words of judgment, shame, condemnation, belittling, and even words that are bullying, and how seriously those can affect us. Um, there's a wonderful Matsuro Emoto. For those of you who are familiar with him, his work. He was a scientist and um, of sorts. He was a doctor of sorts too, and that's another whole long story what his background was. But he did a lot of work with water crystals. And some of you may be familiar with the movie that he was featured in a few decades ago, I think it was, called What the Bleep Do We Know? And that was the name of it. What the bleep literally do we know? And his work with water crystals, and we are, by the way, mostly made up of water, depending on which part of your body. It could be 60 to 85%, depending on your brain, your bones. I mean, so it's about 80% water. He did, and his experiments with water crystals were basically taking these little tubes of water, test tubes filled with water, and he put them in his freezer and he put words around them. So the words were like love, thank you, gratitude. And then other ones had really negative, nasty things. And one of them was even, I hate you, I want to kill you. And so he exposed the test tubes with water to these words by just writing it on the outside and putting it on the test tube. He put it in the freezer, and in the test tubes frosted up in the freezer. And then he took pictures, like microscopic, blowing up the water crystals with a microscopic camera. I don't know how that worked, but anyway, some of you will know that what that is. And he took these pictures, and they're beautiful, beautiful water crystals blown up from this to this, so you could see what it looked like. Those that were exposed to the positive words and those that were exposed to the negative words. And the ones exposed to the positive words were just beautiful crystalline structures. They looked like the most beautiful snowflakes you've ever seen. Okay. and shimmery and beautiful patterns and just like snowflakes, really pretty snowflakes. And the other ones exposed to the negative words or I hate you, I want to kill you kind of thing. And that looked like chaos. There was no structure or order. It just looked, it was all broken down and gnarled and it didn't have any structure, pretty structure at all. Um, it looked like death, actually, and decomposition and destruction. Over time, that's what happens to us when we hear negative over and over, or when we hear positive over and over. And we can, we've all been subject to these things, and how we change that, how we go about um, changing the damage that has been done for negativity, for hearing negative words, whether it's bullying or any kind of unkindness throughout our lives, is really to go through all the healing process of what I describe in my videos and in my book, Gently Heal Thyself. And if you watch my other videos, I give you a lot of good ways of doing that with the flower essences, journaling, speaking to others, really, really getting down on a deep cellular level to try and change that. And it is possible with energy healing, energy medicine, to help uproot a lot of those things and get those crystalline structures in you going so that you have better health, better mental, physical, emotional, everything kind of health. And I'm going to share with you a recent experience I had. I moved almost 3 years ago now from Colorado Springs, Colorado, to Sherwood, Oregon, which is where I live now. It's, for those of you who don't know where that is, it's like a suburb of Portland. And as an acupuncturist, depending on what state you live in, you have to have a license that goes along with the license requirements of that state, and they're all different. And when I came here, I found out that in addition to the usual things I had to have, they were pretty stringent. I had to take another test, and it wasn't bad. It was an open book thing, so it wasn't a terrible test, but there were a lot of hoops that I had to go through. But there was one that almost stopped me dead in my tracks from becoming an acupuncturist here. And that was, oh gosh, they had to have every single name that you've ever had documented with the change, whether it was a marriage divorce, a death certificate showing from the spouse or whatever. Now, over my lifetime, I've had issues with marriages and I've been married a few times and I'm also a widow. So this goes back, I'm 67. My first marriage, I was 19. So I don't have all that paperwork, I mean, I had most of it, but there were one or two where I just couldn't quite connect the dots. They wanted to see everything documented and I couldn't do it. And I went through torture. And this is with the Oregon Medical Board. And there was a lady there who I would call, and she was wonderful and encouraging. And you can do it. You got it. Yes, just try this and try that. Till we ran out of what to try. And I was about ready to give up and say, well, maybe God doesn't want me to practice acupuncture anymore. I don't know. And she said to me something which changed my life. It really did. And to this day, I think of it whenever I'm in trouble and I have, something to do that I can't figure out. She said to me, Sylvana, you're a smart woman. You'll figure it out. Whoa. I'm a smart woman, huh? That really said something. Those two positive words, healing words, they were very healing because all of a sudden I realized, she's right. Here I am feeling sorry for myself and giving up. Well, I did think of something. And in addition to all the paperwork that I did fill out, those few spaces that I couldn't quite put the dots together, I went to the Social Security Department and I got them to send me a string of all the name changes with the dates and everything else. By itself, the OMB, the Oregon Medical Board, would not have accepted that. But because I was presenting it with all the other documentation that I did have, and it was only a little piece that it had to really string together in the middle somewhere, with one of the divorces and one of the marriages where I didn't quite have the document I needed. So they accepted it, and that was it. And to this day, when something comes up and I feel stuck, and I say to myself, or I'm sharing with a friend of mine who will remind me of this, and she'll say, "You're a smart woman." And I'll say to myself, "Yes, I'm a smart woman. I'll figure it out." And sure enough, you know, so that, things like that, we need each other to hear these things. And we need to tell each other these things. We really do. If we're going to heal ourselves and help heal others, we really need to remember the power of positive words and also the negative power of the not good ones. And for that reason, and I'm going to close with this, and oh, by the way, I want you to all think of, as a little practice, a little exercise, maybe even journal about what are some of the positive and negative words in your life that you're still carrying around and internalizing and that you'd like to change. You don't want to think of yourself that way anymore. You don't want to think that way, or you don't want to say, maybe it's something you're saying to one of your children and you don't want to say that anymore, or a parent, or someone you care about very much. So write that down and, come up with some ideas and see what you get. And then applying all the methods that I've used, that I've shared, um, in my other videos in my book, and I can do another video on that too. If it seems like there's some interest out there for me, we'll do that. But here's what I wanted to end with. Um, I consider words spoken in public, like I'm doing now. Uh, this is for the public, publishing for the public, my YouTube video, to be of a sacred variety, of a sacred kind. This is a sacred trust. And especially when I'm speaking to you as a licensed acupuncturist in the state of Oregon, or, in any kind of way that might give some kind of impression that, that gives a little more weight to it, shall we say. I don't want to elevate me or anything else in that way, but just saying something in public gives a little more weight when you do that. And that includes also writing. As an author, my written word, what they say, the pen is mightier than the sword. There's a reason for that. Yes, it is. So for me, that is really something I feel that I have been entrusted with, and that I have to honor and obey and respect all of you listening. That I can't just say whatever I want the way I might if I were on the phone chit chatting with a buddy, with a bestie, with one of my besties. I feel that there is a trust, and that there's a weight behind words that I have to consider carefully. And I can't always say exactly what I want in the way I want, but I have to consider and honor you, those of you who are listening, and your needs, and being sensitive to all of you out there, and to be loving to you in a way that's a higher way perhaps than I might in my everyday life. Not that I'm this horrible person or anything, but to be even more mindful of being careful and loving and kind in my words. So with that, I will say take care for now. Until the next video, thank you so much for listening and for watching and for being a part of my life the way many of you are, and those of you who are just listening are also part of my life. I love you all. Take care.